Welcome back, beautiful souls. If you are new here, I am Brittany. Hey, your manifesting mentor. I'm not a coach, I'm not a guru, but I'm a woman who walks the walk and who shares what works. We are in chapter 14 of Becoming Supernatural, which I've been reading chapter by chapter, by the way. This is Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, where we're diving into some of the most powerful case studies of what's truly possible when we commit to this work. So, this final story of his case studies, It Could Happen to You, is about a guy named Jerry who returns from the brink of death. Jerry suddenly experienced excruciating pain, found himself in the ER, and literally on the brink of death. But he remembered the work that he learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza's books, and he started to implement them while under the hospital care workers' care. And he basically says that it changed his life and it saved his life. So his story is a reminder that healing doesn't always happen to us. It often happens through those. No, it often happens through us. His story is a reminder that healing doesn't always happen to us. It happens through us. So let's read this final story together. Sorry for the brain fart because I don't know what that was about. But anyways, Jerry returns from the brink of death. On August 14, 2015, Jerry was putting together a project on his back deck as he was reading the directions. He felt a sudden sharp pain right below his sternum. He thought perhaps it was gas, so he took some medication, but it didn't go away. Instead, he lay down to rest and it got worse. By the time he tried to get up, he started losing his ability to stand and thought he might pass out. As the pain became more intense and his breathing grew shorter, he called an ambulance. With all his might, he dragged himself about 15 feet outside the driveway so the paramedics wouldn't have to kick his door in. Kneeling on the driveway, he collapsed, waiting for the emergency medical technicians. When they arrived, they assumed he was having a heart attack and immediately began to follow that protocol. You guys don't understand. I'm having a really hard time breathing, he told them. We have to get to the hospital right away. Jerry knew what he was talking about. He'd worked for 34 years as a medical technician in the very emergency room where they were about to take him. Jerry knew everyone in the ER. And once he arrived, doctors, nurses, and technicians and specialists began frantically running lab work on him. When the doctor, who was also Jerry's friend, told Jerry that red flags had come up in every test administered, Jerry knew things were not looking good. One test in particular was particularly alarming. His levels of protease, amylase, I don't know, and lipase, enzymes produced by the pancreas, were 4,000 to 5,000 units per liter, way above the norm, and about 100 to 200 of about 100 to 200. They put Jerry in an intensive care unit. The pain soon worsened, and none of the drugs they were giving me worked, Jerry said. They told me that a duct to my gallbladder had been blocked and that it was causing trouble in my pancreas. Worst of all, fluid started to develop in my lungs. I was now down to 80% breathing capacity in both lungs. That's when the doctors put me on a ventilator, and I knew things were bad. The doctor then asked his team to turn on the TV to Boston, allowing the doctor to have an immediate teleconference with other doctors in a larger hospital in the nearest big city. In all the time I'd worked at the hospital, I'd only seen the TV to Boston come on a few times for the most serious traumas for people who are dying, Jerry said. It means they have no idea what's happening. When a doctor you have trusted for years tells you they don't know what's going on, well, that's when my stress hormones started to kick into high gear. When all this was happening, the medical staff told Jerry's wife that if there was end of life paperwork she needed to get in order, now would be the time to go home and get it. She left sobbing. I've heard this story all too many times in my field of work and also my personal life with people that I love. Jerry soon realized he needed to start taking care of himself. He knew that if he allowed the stress hormones to start taking over, he was not going to win. I went from being a guy who hadn't been sick in years, who did yoga all the time, who ate well, to all of a sudden being in the ICU. I kept telling myself, I can't go down this road. I can't give in to the fear. So I didn't. Since he'd recently read my book, You Are the Placebo, he started thinking, I got to change these thought patterns. I can't allow these thoughts to make more cortisol to get in the body and start doing more damage to what's left of me. See, he had enough intelligence, even in the midst of his fear, to not allow himself to spiral emotionally because he knew that that stress hormone, cortisol, was going to take over and it was going to do more harm than what the pain and everything else that was already happening would do. Very, very smart move for Jerry. He says the doctors eventually found out that Jerry had a large mass blocking a duct in his pancreas. The mass was not letting the mucus drain, so everything in the gland was backing up and spilling over into his bloodstream. My doctor stayed with me for 3 days straight, he says. They put an oxygen mask on me because I couldn't breathe. I had IVs on both sides, and meanwhile, I kept thinking, watch your thoughts, relax, put something into the quantum field that's going to help you and not hurt you because you're already knocking on the door. I'm going to be okay. This too shall pass. I'm going to be all right. Whenever he was conscious, Jerry placed his energy on overcoming himself, changing his state of being, and creating a different outcome, constantly tuning into a different potential in the unified field. This man literally did textbook work for what Dr. Joe was trying to get us to do. But in the midst of his chaos, in the midst of losing his life, he remembered, keep your thoughts not just positive, keep your emotions in check. Don't give in to fear. You're going to be all right. Put something into quantum. Use your visualization for something that you want to happen rather than something that you don't want to happen. Use your energy. Even if you are scared, use it for putting something good in your mind and into the quantum field. Chef's kiss. He says, um, fortunately, he had a private room, giving him plenty of opportunity to do his meditations whenever he wanted to. Jerry spent a week in the ICU, and by the end of that time, when he moved to a progressive care unit, the oxygen mask was gone and Jerry was walking around. Even so, he could not eat or drink anything for 9 weeks. If he ate anything or even had water, his pancreas would release acid into his body. Oof, good God, Jesus. Eventually killing him. The only nourishment he received was through an IV for 9 weeks, y'all. When Jerry was admitted to the hospital, he weighed 145 pounds. When he was discharged, he weighed 119. When he finally went home, still with the IV pole, he continued to do the work. As October drew near, the mass was still present. His doctor suggested he see a specialist in Boston to undergo surgery. Because Jerry was a medical professional, 2 days before the surgery, he suggested his medical team take some more tests and scans so the doctors would have the most up to date information. I know all the x ray technicians, and yet when they told me I no longer had a mass, I didn't believe them. I called in the radiologists and the doctors. They just kept saying, Jerry, we're looking at your film right now. We're telling you, there's nothing there. I'm calling the guys in Boston to tell them there will no longer be any surgery. There will be no surgery. Sorry. Jerry later realized that by constantly raising his energy, moving into the feeling of health, and changing the thoughts and belief that he was sick to the thoughts and belief that he was going to be fine, the higher frequency caused him to heal. I wasn't going to allow myself to think, woe is me. This is going to be bad. I kept working on this every day for as much of the day as I could. And I put the right message, intention, and energy out into the quantum field to heal myself. And eventually I did. Ooh, child, that was more than what I thought it was going to be. I thought, I don't know what I thought, but I didn't think it was going to be that. So listen, that wraps up the final story in chapter 14. I was going to do the afterword, but I can go over that during the live on Friday, which I hope you'll join me for. But if you're watching this, please take this as your sign. You are powerful beyond what you've been taught, and your healing, your breakthrough, your miracle is absolutely possible. The formula that Dr. Joe gives in this book and all of his other books and in all of his workshops is not a hard formula. But like he says, the hardest part of all of it is making the time to do it and conditioning your body and your mind to go into this formula, even in the midst of your own chaos. because it's so easy to get wrapped up in our five senses, and then we start to emotionally relate to it in a negative way. We start allowing the stress hormones to kick in when we start feeling those stress emotions, and it does not help our condition physically in our bodies, and it does not help our circumstances externally, our relationship dynamics. It gets in the way, guys. So we have to learn how to exist in a way where stress response is not our first go to. We have to recondition our bodies to a new mind. So you can catch up on any chapter or part that you missed in my full Becoming Supernatural playlist here on YouTube. It's also linked in my bio on TikTok. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because your subscription helps me stay on this platform and continue to make content like this, and perhaps even read other books that we want to explore together. But sign up for my newsletter for updates and deeper teachings. And when you sign up for my newsletter, it's called a cheat sheet here on YouTube. It's my 7 thoughts to unshakable faith. You will get that free PDF download in your inbox. We're wrapping this series up on Friday night with a live conversation reflecting on this entire journey from science to the supernatural. And I love to see you there. But until then, stay aligned, stay present, stay supernatural. And I'll see you on Friday. Bye, guys.